Well, good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. On behalf of BBioNets, I would like to extend a warm welcome to our webinar. My name is Hossein, and I am part of the CircBio research group at MTU. So today here, we are going to celebrate Bioeconomy Ireland Week. As part of this week event, we are gathered here today to focus on a crucial aspect of our collective future, empowering Ireland's farmers and foresters through bio-based solutions. Bioeconomy Ireland Week provides a platform to celebrate the innovations and strategies that are driving our country towards a more sustainable and resilient economy. This year's theme centers around supporting those at the heart of our bioeconomy, being farmers and foresters, by harnessing the power of biomass and bio-based solutions to achieve both environmental and economic gains. So today here, our guests are James Gaffey from the operational group project Biorefinery Glass, Colm Faulkner from project Next Gen Wood, Noha Mahmoud from Shaping Bio, Dragitsa Gruzdanic from Mainstream Bio, and we have from our very own house MTU, Carmen Dominguez from BBioNets, as well as Thomas McCarthy from Teagasc. So giving you a short structure of this event, we will have a short introduction to BBioNets, which is hosting this event by Carmen. Afterwards, Thomas will give us an introduction to forestry and agricultural networks. And after that, we'll have our panel discussion with our guest speakers. So, and after that, we will have our questions and answers session. So now, without further ado, I would like to ask Carmen to kick off this event by an introduction to BBioNets. Carmen?
Thank you so much, Hossein. Welcome, everybody. I will share my screen now, and I will, here we are. Oh. Okay, so thank you everybody for being here. As Hossein said, we are hosting this event in the Bioeconomy Ireland Week in 2024, and this is the BBioNets project. I'm going to introduce you a little overview of the project. It is called BBioNets, boosting the adoption of bio-based technologies for the creation and promotion of forest and agriculture networks to boost bio-based technologies, adoption, and value chain development. So what is in reality BBioNets? So we are a Horizon Europe project. We are a CSA, a coordination and support action that was born to support primary production, especially agriculture and forestry, through knowledge transfer, mainly, right? So we want to be more involved in the early stages of the supply chains. We want primary productions to be more involved in these early stages of the supply chains. We want primary producers to learn more about bio-based technologies and bio-based solutions, and we want to contribute to a boost in agriculture and silviculture economic growth and in an environmentally sustainable way. So they can be, the primary producers can be more involved in the economic growth in an environmental sustainable way. How is going to BBioNets is going to meet all of these? So we have 4 main objectives here. We are setting up forest and agriculture networks, what we called funds. So these funds are networks where foresters and farmers are involved along us with their advisors. And here later on, Thomas from Teagasc will talk more about the funds, and he will explain to you how to join the funds if you are interested. We want to transfer information to the funds, to the farmers and foresters, by matching bio-based technologies to the regional dynamics and the regional potential. That means basically we will be looking up bio-based technologies information and matching their needs and resources so we can transfer the correct bio-based technologies to each region. We will raise awareness that's our most important activity. We want to raise awareness and we want to increase the capacity of all the key actors in all the regions that we are involved in this project. And we want to secure a long-term sustainability of the project outcomes. So the next question will be, where are we going to operate this project? So as you can see here in this map, we have partners in 6 countries: Ireland, Spain, Italy, Greece, Poland, and Czech Republic. And these are all the partners and experts involved in this project. But we are not going to only operate in this region. In these regions, we want to collect information from all Europe available and transfer throughout these regions and beyond. And this is a way of visualize this. You can see the flags, all the 6 regions that we have, and you can see that we plan to interact within Atlantic area, the Mediterranean area, the Central Europe, but also amongst all other regions. So all the information that we collect that will improve the primary producers through Biobased technology, that will boost their economy. We will transfer all of this information throughout all the regions to try to find out which all of these Biobased technologies would be best to acquire in each region. So what is a Biobased technology? Because I've been saying this a lot. So Biobased technologies are basically technologies or practices that use non-food feedstocks and also follow circularity principles, or do one thing or the other. All of this to deliver many products. So basically, BBioNets is not developing any new information. What we are doing is we are collecting knowledge already created through, for instance, EIP-AGRI operational groups projects and more of other projects, Horizon Europe projects, H2020 projects, local initiatives, etc. That are about management and or processing of agriculture and forest biomasses through these BBTs, Biobased technologies, or Biobased solutions. So I've brought here some examples of some technologies that might be brought to Ireland or to other regions, but also you can access to these examples later on in the website. I will show you how to access to this. So some examples of bio-based technologies in the energy sector, let's say, could be the energy production using fruit tree pruning wood that generates farm-scale gasifiers, or biogas production from converting farm byproducts with farm-scale anaerobic digesters. And we can also talk about outside the energy sector. We can also talk about the animal feedstock sector. For example, we could focus on Biobased technology that process pressed cake and protein for cattle feed and pig feed using green biorefineries, for instance, or processing grasses or other green leaves. Or we could also be talking about animal feed compounds, using producing animal feed compounds using waste products from olives and grapes, for instance, because we have Mediterranean regions, so that will be interesting for them. So there's many other examples for Biobased technologies, and we are working at the moment in developing a big catalog of technologies to transfer to the regions. But for instance, you can go to our website, and you have our website is BBioNets.eu. You can go to our website here, and you can and this is the first page that you will see here, the man with the tractor, and you will scroll down a little bit and you will see the description of the project, and you will see these Biobased technologies highlighted in green. If you click in these links, you will have a big list of examples of Biobased technologies that could be brought to every region. And also, if you go to the website and you click on the funds button here on the top, this is where you could join the Irish fund, the Irish Forest and Agriculture Network. But I will not delve into here further, because Thomas will show you more about how to join the funds. And finally, I think this is one of my last slides. I want to show you our expected outcomes. So as I said to you, we are a regional, we are establishing regional networks, 6 regional networks in this project that will interact within each other and beyond. We are creating a Biobased technology online assessment tool that will showcase cost effectiveness analysis of these Biobased technologies depending on the needs of each region. We will also develop an online inventory of Biobased technologies, of applied and identified operational groups and other projects. We are also going to create a number of reports on regional dynamics, for instance, the current state of the farming practices, the awareness and maturity of Biobased technologies, etc. And we will also create a roadmap of how to perhaps better implement Biobased technologies in each region, which Biobased technologies will be more suitable for each region, and so on. So we are creating a funnel of information. We are creating a catalog, and then we are analyzing, and then we are creating a roadmap of specific Biobased technologies for each region. And perhaps the most interesting thing for farmers and foresters and their advisors could be that we are going to create an online knowledge platform, which is going to be open access with all materials that we're going to produce, because we're going to produce a lot of training and educational materials, such as fact sheets, practice abstracts, videos, infographics, and everything on these Biobased technologies. So they could be easily transferred to the farmers and foresters. And finally, we will recommend some we will create some policy recommendations to boost the uptake of these Biobased technologies at farm and forestry levels, and create a number of guidelines to enhance collaboration with other operational groups. So all of this is what we plan to do. We are in the first year of the project already. This month is our anniversary of the first year. So we've already started developing some of these activities, and you will soon start seeing some of the new outcomes. You can follow us in one of these social media channels. We are not picky. We are on almost every platform that exists out there. So anytime that you will be interested, oh, what's BBioNets doing, or would they be already publishing this about the technologies or whatever, just go and follow us in one of these platforms and just keep an eye on our activities. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Carmen. That was so insightful. You mentioned about FANS, forestry and agricultural networks. Let's hear more about FANS from Thomas. Thomas?
Perfect. So, can everybody see my screen okay? Yeah, so hello everyone. Thanks Hussein for the introduction. So my name is Thomas McCarthy. I'm a research officer working with Teagasc down in Johnstone Castle, and I'm working on this BioNets project as well. And today I'm going to discuss the forestry and agriculture networks, or the FANs for short, which make up the BBioNets community. So just to give a little bit of background as to what these FANs are. So basically they're communities of agricultural and forestry experts shaping the future of the region's bioeconomy. And I think Carmen already gave a little bit of background to the various fans that we have spread across Europe. So BBioNets have established fans in 6 key regions throughout Europe. So we have one here in Ireland, Spain, Italy, Greece, Poland, and also in the Czech Republic. So the idea is, I suppose, that each region has specific biomasses being generated from the primary activities associated with the different regions. And the purpose of the fan in each region then is to identify the local needs relevant to the region's primary activities, and also to evaluate and prioritize the bio-based technologies specific to each region. So I suppose as a generalization, with differences in weather patterns and geographic spread and things, the primary activities in the areas are different, and therefore we're examining the differences in the various biomasses being generated. So how do these fans work? Well, the goal is to identify and understand and provide BBT solutions for the needs of farmers and foresters, specifically regarding the processing of biomass, value chain operations, and the availability of technology. And the fans work by engaging regional stakeholders in identifying these local needs and helping to understand through discussions really the regional dynamics and practices, and helping to come up with local solutions to different BBTs in each region. And I suppose an important thing to note is the strength and the success of these fans relies on the collaboration of the members really, and their existing knowledge. So, we gather experts that have an extensive knowledge of BBTs and solutions, and, people who are involved in raising awareness and knowledge transfer, and those with good contacts and collaborations, and that's very beneficial to the success of the fan. So then just to concentrate a little bit on the Irish fan. So the collaborations we've had to date. So we had a workshop that we conducted earlier this year down in Johnstone Castle in Wexford. And, just to say, like, the collaboration of all the members is what made it really successful. And as an example of the few people that are involved, we have primary producers. So that would be farmers and foresters working in various sectors, dairy, beef, tillage, and forestry, and organic farmers as well. And then we have their insights, which are very important to us. And then we also have researchers such as ourselves working in Teagasc and MTU and other research organisations throughout Ireland. And then we have industry partners, such as those working in companies looking at ways to, add value to raw biomass by making products that are useful to be spread at farm level. And then we have people involved in advisory services that can transfer that knowledge to primary producers and also policymakers. So just some of the highlights that came out of that workshop. So we identified through discussions on the day some of the key resources of the Irish bioeconomy. We also identified some of the key needs of the Irish fan, and I suppose it was a good opportunity to allow collaboration between the various stakeholders, and it was a networking opportunity. And a nice added bonus on the day was we were able to showcase some of the bio-based fertilizer trials that are currently being conducted at Johnstone Castle Research Centre, where we looked at bio-based fertilizers in comparison to your typical synthetic fertilizers. That was a nice bonus for our members on the day. So just to delve into the key findings of that workshop a little bit more. So some of the key resources that were identified in the region. So really they're closely aligned to the nature of the primary production in Ireland. So being a grass-based predominantly system of production in Ireland, we see a lot of generation of cattle slurry and also pig slurry. And then on the forestry front, we saw there's a lot of generation of tree branch and forestry waste, and also food waste streams. And on the arable side of things, then we identified straw, green manures, and cover crops as a good biomass source. There's also identified poultry ashes on less productive, more marginal lands. There's a good potential for the use of rushes and gorse, and then I suppose on the food side of things, again, vegetable waste on vegetables that don't make it to supermarket grade, for example, and also the wastes that are generated from horticulture. So then we also looked at the needs for helping with the transition to a more circular economy in Ireland. And really this was largely down to infrastructure or lack of infrastructure. So again, on the forestry side, we identified mulchers and chippers that are needed in a greater number for the processing of wood biomass. There's also a greater need for more anaerobic digesters throughout the country. as is there a need for more incinerators for the production of ash. As a general statement, we need more increased circularity in processes across the sector. On the slurry generation side of things, slurry separation technology is something that's needed going forwards. And then in terms of funding, it was identified by FAM members that there's a need for more regional funding in terms of funding infrastructure and technology. And I'd just like to draw your attention to a report that we conducted as part of BBioNets project, where we identified the regional needs and challenges, not only in Ireland, but across the other 5 regions of the EU. And we delved into a lot more detail on that, and that report is publicly available on the BBioNets website for your interest if you'd like to look at things in more detail there. So just to bring us up to the present day, the next step of the fans in Ireland, we are to have another meeting in the coming weeks where we're looking to validate and prioritise bio-based technologies for Ireland. So we're going to meet online with the fan members and debate a list of 10 bio-based technologies that have been identified for their potential use in Ireland and discuss their feasibility. We'll also look at the economics of that in terms of the value of various biomasses and indeed the replacement value of various biomasses that we'll be discussing in the meeting. And we'll also hope to prioritise the list of those key resources and needs that were identified in the previous slides. So just to bring you to how you could join the fan, we're looking for anyone that's basically interested in working in the bioeconomy, anyone that's interested in sustainability and safeguarding the future of agriculture and forestry in Ireland. We'd value your expert knowledge and value your insights, which will help with collaboration and knowledge sharing. Another added bonus of being a fan member is you get access to cutting edge research, insights from industry, and great networking opportunities with peers across the country. And by contributing, you can help to improve valorization of biomass resources in Irish agriculture and forestry and help to safeguard the bioeconomy going forward. So really, if you're interested in joining, we'd be delighted to hear from you. You can contact me by my email down there at the bottom right, thomasmccarthy@teagasc.ie. I'd be delighted to answer any queries or to show if anyone's showing any interest in joining. I'd be happy to answer any queries there. So just to summarize, finally, that the network it's a network of experts striving to increase circularity in Irish forestry and agriculture, and we rely on the collaboration and innovation of fan members. And by joining, you can help to contribute to sustainability going forwards and improving the valorization of biomass resources in the country. And for more information, you can visit our website there at bbionets.eu, and specifically the Irish fan section of the website, which is there at that link as well, where there's a little bit more information. And as Carmen already outlined, we're on all major social media channels, so feel free to give us a follow. We'd be delighted with that. So thanks very much for listening.
Thank you very much, Thomas. That was quite insightful. So now let's jump into our panel discussion. I would like to first ask the guest speakers to give a very short introduction of their projects, and afterwards I'll ask questions from them. So let's start from James Gaffey from the operational group project Biorefinery Glass. James, could you please give us a short introduction of your project, and afterwards I would ask you a question.
Sure, thanks, Hussein. So I coordinate the EIP-AGRI project called Biorefinery Glass. So the project was around demonstration of a small-scale mobile green biorefinery facility with Carberry Group, Barry Roll Co-op, UCD, and Grassa technology company from the Netherlands. And so within the project, our focus was on essentially demonstrating how we can process fresh grass to produce a number of different products, including a pressed cake, which can be fed to cows, a protein concentrate, which can be fed to pigs as a replacement for soybean meal, a sugar concentrate called fructooligosaccharides, which can serve as a prebiotic, and a residual stream called a whey or a brown juice, which can be used as a fertilizer or used for the production of bioenergy. And so part of our project was really around demonstrating this with the grassland farmers, how they could utilize their grass more efficiently. And we have a lot of grass in Ireland, of course, and partly around validating the products that we could produce and the economics behind it, the sustainability benefits associated with it. And part of that was done with pig farmers. So we were linking essentially dairy farmers to pig farmers who would end up using some of the protein and other products being produced from the grass. And so it ran until 2021, and we have a number of follow-on projects which have followed on from that. The work has continued through a project called Farm Zero C, and we have an upcoming project called Rural Biorefineries, which is a CBEJU demonstration action, which will actually operationalize a demonstration scale green biorefinery and anaerobic digestion facility in Ireland. And again, with many of the same partners involved, plus some new partners as well.
Thank you very much, James. So my question for you, how do you see Biobased solutions transforming Ireland's agricultural and forestry sector in the next 5 to 10 years? And what role will farmers and foresters play in driving these innovations?
So I think there's a lot of opportunities. I think you have opportunities for farmers and foresters to think about the biomass they produce on their farms. This can be in primary form, like the example I gave from grass, where you can use it more efficiently and convert it into new products and still create products for your farm. And it could also be around looking at the residue streams that are produced on the farm. So things like slurries, things like straw, and looking at how these could be used to develop new innovations, new revenue streams to diversify. So an obvious example at the moment would be the use of slurries that are produced on the farm to produce bioenergy or biomethane through anaerobic digestion, where you could produce an energy material or product, but you can also produce a fertilizer which can be used back on the farm as well. So there's possibility to implement these, and obviously there'll be a need for some support, I think, especially for farmers to actually be able to implement these. This support could be in terms of the skills, but also in terms of some sort of financial support in terms of getting these innovations off the ground. But also, aside from the diversification opportunities, the business potential, a lot of these products that are being produced within these innovations, thinking energy, feed, fertilizers, a lot of these products are actually used back within the agricultural sector. And the prices for imported materials coming from, particularly around energy, feed, fertilizers, have been very much increasing over the last 10 years in terms of how much it's costing farmers to import these materials. So there's the possibility for developing a more resilient agriculture sector through these kind of circular processes and benefiting the entire agriculture sector. In terms of the role of farmers, there's a number of different aspects. I'm talking more about farmers, I suppose, than foresters, because that's who I work with mainly. I think that as we think about developing sustainable solutions, we need to be thinking about how sustainable the biomass is going to be going into those solutions. So it's important to constantly try and improve the feedstock source that's going into this in terms of quality, but also in terms of sustainability. So being able to create this sort of sustainable supply chain, I'm thinking in terms of things like clover and multi-species swards being integrated into grassland production, which can fix atmospheric nitrogen and provide a lot of environmental benefits, or crops which might have a particularly high protein source that people are now looking into through a number of projects, or other benefits that might benefit in terms of developing bio-based products. I think farmers and primary producers more widely are going to be very much involved in taking that innovation, collaborating with people in terms of testing this, and then scaling up this supply chain. And then in terms of the actual innovations themselves, what I'd like to see is something that is farmers being empowered to actually introduce some of these innovations themselves. So actually come together and scale up some of these innovations collectively, and to bring some innovations to the market. There's a number of examples of that in Ireland. You have examples like green generation, BHSL innovations, which have happened on the farm, involving farmers, which have been able to scale. So I think there's precedence for that to happen. So I see, and then if we think about it in terms of the supply chain, if we want these facilities to be, let's say, for these facilities to provide a kind of a return on the investment, we need them to run over a long period of time. So essentially you want your biorefinery, if you're building one, to be operational for 25, 30 years. And that biorefinery is going to be dependent on having a steady supply chain over that period. Best way, I think, of ensuring we do have a steady supply chain is making sure that we have primary producers integrated in a way that makes sense for them to be involved. So I think that needs to be considered. So I think involving primary producers all the way in terms of the supply chain, but also in terms of the outputs of products and so on, would make a lot of sense. And that's what I would hope to see.
Yeah, thank you very much, James. So let's go to another question for another guest speaker. Dr. Noah Mahmoud, could you please introduce yourself and tell us about the project that you worked in, Shaping Bio?
Perfect. So I work for the Shaping Bio project, which is an EU Horizon 2020 project. And we work across 9 different EU member states. And our goal is to shape the future of bioeconomy, but also to accelerate the deployment of the bioeconomy implementation across the EU. And we are doing so through, like looking at the different gaps, but also providing actionable recommendation in 4 different pillars. And we are focusing on the governance and regulation, but also collaboration, finance, and research and technology transfer. So that's in a nutshell the project that I'm working on. So we have like quite a broader overview over the EU.
See, thank you very much. So my question for you is, what are some of the incentives to support systems that you believe should be put in place to ensure widespread adoption by farmers and foresters?
Well, that's a very good question, because if we are looking at the bioeconomy adoption, like by primary producers, and here, of course, I mean like foresters and farmers initially. And if we look at the EU, it's clear that, like there is a significant knowledge, but there are some challenges that still influence the implementation of the bioeconomy practice. And these challenges, they are, of course, like multiple, but they include things like the disconnection between, like the researchers, the primary producers, and the industry. And of course, in addition to the financial and the investment challenges, there is the need for practical examples, which are needed to demonstrate the potential of the bioeconomy to create value, but also generate revenue streams, which is beyond the traditional models. And in order to address these, like this can contribute to a broader implementation of bioeconomy. So for example, implementing demonstration initiatives, which are critical. And we have heard about like several, like initiatives from Ireland in the past few weeks. These, like initiatives are very critical, not to only showcase, like the opportunities on how the bioeconomy can contribute to increased income, lowering like cost, but also positioning primary producers as change makers, which can create a multiplier effect in encouraging a broader, like adoption of the bioeconomy. But while it's very important, it's also important to apply these initiatives to be more tailored to the regional, and here I mean like the subnational, but also the local levels, in order to account for the specific environmental and economic conditions, and making those initiatives more practical, but also impactful. And there are other key, like instruments such as investing in training and capacity building, which I have heard Carmen mentioning it before from the BBioNet, which is very, like important in order to develop the necessary skills, like to work in the bioeconomy. You need a lot of interdisciplinary, but also cross-sectoral skills. And it's really needed, like to build those capacities. And of course, like as we mentioned earlier, there is this disconnection between the researchers, the primary producers, and industry. So there is a need, like to bring those stakeholders together. And for this, we can use, like the innovation hub, the existing platforms, the clusters, in order to facilitate not only the creation, but the transfer of user-friendly knowledge. So knowledge that can be digested and can be used by primary producers, but also to foster collaboration. But as like all of these instruments cannot really go alone. It needs, like regulation, which is inclusive for, like primary producers, and of course, like funding, in order to create an enabling environment in which, like it will enhance the adoption of the bioeconomy practice.
Great, thank you very much, Noha. So we have an exciting project called Next Gen Wood. Maybe we can hear more about this project, which is more dealing with forestry sector from Colm. Colm?
Thanks, Hussein. Next Gen Wood is a Department of Agriculture, Food and Marine project led by Professor McMorris from Trinity College Dublin. It involves 5 of the main universities. Broadly, the researchers and collaborators are developing high value and high volume bio-based materials and bio-based processes from wood. So, for example, in Trinity College Dublin, people are developing bio-based materials for the built environment. In University College Dublin, people are developing low TRL biorefinery applications of wood using bacteria and enzymes. In University of Galway, researchers are developing prebiotics and animal health products from native Irish hardwoods. In University College Cork and University College Limerick, researchers are developing future energy materials from wood, which may be used as battery materials, as storage materials, or even to convert waste heat into wood. And then we also collaborate with the life cycle assessment team in UCD to ensure that the principles of sustainability and circularity are adhered to across the whole project.
Thank you very much, Colm. So I have a question for you. Based on your experience, what unique challenges have you faced in scaling bio-based innovations, and how have you worked with local farmers or foresters to overcome such challenges?
Well, specific to an Irish context, if we project availability of biomass forward, it is likely that the primary producers, farmers and foresters, will be taking an even more important role into the future, as opposed to some other actors active in an Irish context. Specifically in Ireland, we know that we want to address the economic potential of wood and the opportunities provided, but also social and environmental imperatives and opportunities. So for the researchers on Next Gen Wood, it was important to address native Irish hardwoods and a wide variety of different species to de-risk the research across the project. So specifically, we were able to go to Irish foresters and growers networks around the northeast of Ireland to procure, for example, oak thinnings. So oak thinnings are currently undervalorized. So specifically, we worked with these producers to procure bark from oak thinnings, which again is undervalorized. And the chemists in Trinity College Dublin have developed sustainable techniques and methodologies to isolate a chemical called tannin, which is well known, but has platform applications across the European bioeconomy. That could be food, beverage, it could be clothing, textile, and in principle, it can also be plowed back into applications in the built environment, which are relatively scalable. And Ireland currently exports a lot of board-based wood products for the built environment. So that would be one example.
Thank you very much, Colm. We have another exciting project called Mainstream Bio. Can I ask Debbie to please give us an introduction to this project and tell us what it is about?
Thank you, Hussein. Firstly, just that I introduce myself, I'm Dragica Grozdanic, and I'm working as a bioeconomy researcher on this project together with James. So just the brief introduction to Mainstream Bio project. So it's also one of the EU-funded Horizon projects, which sets out to get the small scale bio-based solutions into the mainstream practice across 7 EU rural regions such as Ireland, Netherlands, Poland, Denmark, Bulgaria, Spain, and Sweden. By then establishing regional multi-actor innovation platforms, each with variety of the feedstock, infrastructure, and expertise, all in the aim of co-creating sustainable business pathways, which are then in line with the regional potential and potentials and the policy initiatives. So this is really a brief idea what we are doing in the mainstream bio.
Yeah, thank you, Debbie. So you mentioned about collaborations. So how has your project fostered partnerships with the key stakeholders, being farmers, foresters, and innovators? And what best practices have emerged from such collaborations?
Okay, so the Mainstream Bio project actually fostered this kind of collaboration between this mentioning group, as it is the crucial to its own objective on the scaling up the bioeconomy within the rural regions. So the project itself emphasizes the importance of this building strong partnership to connect these bio-based innovations with small farmers and the local communities by transforming their farm waste into the valuable biomass, which at the end creating this new income for the farmers from the side streams. So as I already mentioned, in order that we achieve this, Mainstream Bio has established these 7 regional MIPs members across 7 EU countries, and each of us are working and we are all engaged in organizing different types of let's say events such as in-person event or networking event. Then also we are working on organizing different type of workshops such as the regional scale-up workshops, cross-learning, mutual workshops, capacity building workshop. Also we are hosting the webinars, and also something that I would like to highlight is that it is still recently launched toolbox, Mainstream Bio toolbox, which I'm sure it can benefit to the different farmers' needs. So I will use this opportunity to encourage you all to visit our Mainstream Bio project site and the Mainstream Bio toolkit and look how we can help you. And what I would like to also say that all of these activities are actually designed to create a collaborative ecosystem where these innovations can be effectively implemented and also scaled, while both benefiting local communities and also to a broader rural economy.
Thank you. Are you done? Okay, thank you very much. Okay, thanks. So I would like to ask another question from Colm, speaking about the opportunities in the bioeconomy. So Colm, could you please tell me what are the big next opportunities for farmers and foresters in bioeconomy innovation in Ireland?
I think we need to be pragmatic and recognize the constraints and opportunities provided by the national context. So in Ireland, we're blessed with great rain, which means we've got fast-growing feedstock, and this is a great advantage over a lot of our partner countries around Europe. We're also constrained by, I guess, our island nature. So perhaps we're not ready for a full wood-based biorefinery at scale or volume in Ireland yet. And I see Mick is coming in after me. But we're definitely ready, as James already said, to have primary producers and the innovators and researchers and the businesses or the application spaces working closer together. So if we're not ready for full biorefinery, we're ready to biopilot, to biofirst, to biodemonstrate, to bring farmers and foresters into a first European grant application. So only last week we were bringing in some small Cork-based SME into some EU pilot applications. So every time we get to do it first, I think we should look to do that as quickly as possible. And Mick will come in behind there.
Yeah, thank you very much, Colm. So speaking about the policies, I see. I would like to ask maybe a final question from Dr. Noha and ask if what do you think are the policies that could be placed to ensure that the small-scale farmers and foresters are not left behind in the transition to a bioeconomy?
Thanks a lot, Hussein, for your question. And I would say, like, like in order to make sure, like of a just transition towards, like bioeconomy development, it's very important to have like things like associations and cooperatives of small scale farmers and foresters in which, like they can be more linked together, but also, like having the same opportunities as large scale farmers and foresters. And in addition to link them to industry, we have seen from our project that in many EU countries, there is this, like fragmentation in ownership, especially within the forestry sector. And there is this need of bringing them together in order to have more opportunities. And, like an example from the Nordic countries where forester would be like shareholders in industry, but also, like being part of big associations and cooperatives as well. So I would say, like, beside having, of course, like inclusive policy, having, like small scale farmers and foresters within, like when designing the policy and the roadmaps, it's important to have like associations and cooperatives, which can be, like very helpful.
That's great. Thank you very much, Noha. So I think still we have time, so maybe I can ask another question from James. James, what do you think can Ireland do in the transition, a just transition to bioeconomy, and considering the global bioeconomy landscape, and what lessons can Ireland learn from other countries doing bioeconomy successfully?
So I think there's definitely countries which are adapting to bioeconomy at faster rates than other countries. You have in Denmark as a very good example of we'll say biomethane and green biorefinery development. Italy has led a lot in the area of bioplastics. I think all countries have work to do to ensure that primary producers are incorporated fully within the development of this to support that transition. I don't know if there's an example of a country that is perfectly doing this. I think you more have individual examples across different countries around certain operations doing this. I'm thinking in terms of France, you've got a really nice example at Pamukal-Bazincourt, the biorefinery ecosystem, which would have been a sugar beet cooperative back in the 50s, and then in the 80s invested in R&D capacity to understand how they could use their resources more sustainably towards biomaterials and biofuels, as well as food production. And now they've created a kind of biorefinery ecosystem at their site, which involves a number of collaborators sharing resources, sharing materials, sharing energy, all built around cooperation, but still centered around this cooperative approach. In Ireland, we have a very strong cooperation history in the dairy sector, for example. And a lot of these dairy processing facilities in Ireland, how they've evolved over time from being producers of cheese, milk, and butter to transition to still produce those core products, but also produce products from their waste streams or byproducts. So thinking of whey protein, nutritional formula for infants or sports nutrition, producing biofuels and so on. But that's a really nice example, again, of a kind of co-op approach to producing this, developing this biorefinery, and even the grass biorefinery work that we're building into that, which will start the biorefinery approach at the farm, still relies on cooperation between farmers. So that kind of model that you see in the dairy sector, I think we need to see how we can transfer those kind of learnings to other sectors in Ireland, because when you get that cooperation, you get a kind of consolidation of feedstock, a greater feedstock availability, you get greater resources that people can bring together to actually scale up some kind of innovation, which I think is essential towards making this happen. I think the other thing, and the work you're doing as well in terms of highlighting what's happening internationally in terms of case studies that are primary producer focused through your project BBioNets, and transferring that knowledge to the regions is very good, because there's a lot of things that may be happening in other countries that could be very relevant for us to consider here in Ireland, as well as transfer of local examples. And the EIP-AGRI mechanism as well has been a very effective mechanism of getting farmers, researchers and private entities to work together, which is really impactful in terms of providing a route from research into agriculture and possibly scaling up from there. So that's, I suppose, what I think. I think we need to encourage and to develop, to build on mechanisms like EIP-AGRI, which has brought together these stakeholders, and then support the kind of transition whereby some of these really great examples from research, and you've heard a good few of them today, can be supported as much as possible towards commercialization in a model that fully integrates farmers.
Yeah, thank you very much, James. That was quite insightful. I think the panel discussion can end here now, so we can start our questions and answers. I see a few questions in the chat box, but I don't know who the questions are addressed to. Maybe people who would like to ask a question can open their mics and ask the question, telling who can answer. Possibly start from Tobin, maybe.
Hi, yes, thank you very much. This was the first one there, wasn't particularly directed at anyone in particular, just if anyone would like to comment on how their projects either support or come into conflict with ecosystem restoration, and if it does come into conflict, are there any ways to minimize that conflict?
Yeah, here we have a conflict. Maybe it's more about the policies. So maybe I would like to ask Dr. Noha, can you answer this question, please?
Thanks a lot for your question. If I understand your question correctly, you mean like if the project would have any conflicts with ecosystem policies or something like that, if that's what I understood correctly.
Yeah, any kind of barriers that would stand in the way to greater adaptation or scale.
So we don't really focus directly on, like other ecosystem services, but what we are trying to do is trying to cover as many sectors. So what we have, like adopted in our project is that we looked at the different bioeconomy sectors. So agriculture, marine, like forest and so on, food industry and agriculture. And then we have studied different challenges and gaps existing in each sectors. And then we aggregated the results in order to identify, like an aggregated way on how to address, like common policy challenges across the different sectors. So although it doesn't really, like look at the different ecosystem service, it looks at elements from it. But looking definitely, like at what are the current challenges, what are the current gap, but we also adopt like a multi, like expert approach. We have like the co-creation workshops where we work directly with, like different stakeholders group that we, like civil society, but also researchers, primary producers, and so on. So, but, like the focus is not really so much on such conflicts.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you both. Sorry, I see Dr. Michael Morris has his hand raised. Doctor?
Yeah, so thank you. So I guess I've got a couple of questions which I've been thinking about for a while, and I'll put them to the audience now, because I guess in Ireland and in Europe, we're pursuing bioeconomy because it's a bioeconomy, because there's economic value raised. And I just wonder how, first of all, we make decisions about what is likely to generate profit. And because we're a small country, we don't generate that much biomass, right? So we obviously have to pick winners and losers and then concentrate on them. And, today is another illustration when I've heard lots of examples, but I've not heard any metrics. So how do we fold in quantifiable decision-making into the process? So that's my first question. And then the second question relates to that, I guess, and that is, should the bioeconomy as an economic model, should that trump regenerative processes? So, for instance, again, today we've not heard anything about the need for regenerative farming or regenerative forestry. And unless we take an approach that we have to invest in those technologies and approaches, we'll never really define what the bioeconomy has to work with or what it should be done. So they're my two questions.
Thank you, Michael. Maybe I would like ask Dr. Colm to answer these questions.
Thanks, Hussein, for handing me over two very, very difficult questions. I appreciate that. In terms of metrics and KPIs, we need to understand that the bioeconomy in Europe as a whole is an emerging context. So I think it's good to have activity. It's good to have role models. It's good to have pilots. And over time, as we move towards 2050, hopefully more structure will evolve within the system at large. And then in terms of regenerative agriculture, agroforestry, ecology and biodiversity, I think there's a growing understanding and commitment in Ireland and in Europe at large that the environmental imperatives must go hand in hand with economic imperatives. And I think this has been encapsulated and communicated by Department of Agriculture, Food and Marine in the 2023 new forestry programme, where primary producers have been more incentivized than ever to plant for biodiversity and for the long-term wellness of the planet. I'd welcome anyone else's ideas because it's a complicated area. Thanks, Mick.
Thanks. Perhaps I can offer some of my thoughts as well. Like
Sure.
research and innovation are always trying to find which will be the most economic and effective biomasses, perhaps to look into which will be more effective for Ireland, perhaps. And this is something we are doing from the BBioNets project. We not only consider technologies, we also consider what are the biomasses that exist out there and which biomass will be more effective and economic, cost-wise more effective, let's say. And it's true that there's a need of a deep study of what's out there and so on. I'm going to perhaps advertise outside of this webinar now, but tomorrow morning at the same time, the InfraBio project, we are going to present some of the biomass assessment quantification of biomass available in Ireland. There's biomasses everywhere that we could target and promote, valorize, and so on. And there's a lot of study behind and research involved. Like we researchers don't take things easily. We spend a lot of time and think about this, and we also engage with the government and we engage with industry. So if you would like to perhaps pop in tomorrow in the InfraBio website tomorrow morning, and you will have a look at the biomass assessments that we've been doing. Thank you.
Thank you, Carmen. I saw a hand raised by Michelle.
Yeah, thank you. My question is actually, what kind of movement or initiative do you see from the primary producers? Like, what are they looking for? Are they looking for being really involved and have maybe even an innovation at their own farm, for example, or forestry? Or are they more looking for that a truck picks up the biomass and just, they get a bit of money for it? Or how involved are they? Or what are they exactly looking for? Are they interested more in the low-end applications of their biomass, just, the low impact? Or are they looking for very niche high-end applications of their biomass? I was just wondering if somebody would know anything about this.
Yeah, thank you. It's about primary producers. Debbie, would you mind answering this question?
Right. So from our, let's say, experience up to now, the primary producers are more kind of focused on in Ireland. I'm talking about on the current, let's say, the targets what are put in the place from this policy, what it is on reducing the methane, and they are just looking for the solution to align with these new rules. So this is the one thing. The second of the thing is also they are looking for creating some maybe new income for themselves. And honestly, I really would like to highlight that unfortunately, the primary producers or the farmers are still not too much open to us. It's hard to to get from them maybe information, let's say on how much actually their do they have their waste what can be kind of used, which I think generally it is the big issue on the data what is available on the biomass, so that we who works with with the research or maybe with some technologies that we are aware how we can help to them. I hope that at least a bit answer to the question.
Yeah, that's fine. Okay, thank you.
Thank you both. I see a question in the chat. Are there biomass facilities operating in Ireland that farmers and foresters are involved? James, could you please answer this question because you are more involved, I think, with this kind of activity?
Yeah, so we're currently building a demonstration scale green biorefinery and anaerobic digestion plant at Farm Zero C in Cork, which would be the first one in Ireland, where we'll be working with farmers on the processing of grass into different products, high value materials, as well as energy and fertilizers. And then you do have we don't have as many examples as we would like to have, I think, in terms of anaerobic digestion, for example, has been fairly slow to take off the ground in Ireland. But you do have examples like you have a biogas facility in Nerney and Timoleague, where farmers are actively involved in developing some of these plants. So there is examples, and then if we extend it, let's say, to the kind of commercial sector where you have some of the manufacturing sectors and food processing sectors, which could be classified in some instances as being kind of long-standing biorefineries, then you do have some examples in Ireland. And then you have a number of new projects which are getting off the ground on the pilot and demonstration scale. There was an announcement under the Just Transition Fund last week for 2 more pilot to demonstration scale green biorefineries, which have been funded by DAFM for the Midland areas. And there's a number of others in the pipeline being funded through either the Just Transition Fund or the Shared Island Fund, which are coming over the next few years and have been outlined and supported through the Bioeconomy Action Plan. So there are going to be a number of new facilities, and I think most of them are aiming to have some farmer involvement at least, but then you do have some commercial facilities, particularly as the previous speaker mentioned, on maybe some of the lower hanging fruit technologies in terms of anaerobic digestion and some of these, but still I think it's good and positive that it's starting to make some kind of transition into the real world, I suppose, and coming out from research.
Thank you very much, James. I think we can have one more question. So if anyone else has a question, please ask. Okay, I see. Yeah, I see a question. Sorry.
Sorry, go ahead, Hussein.
Yeah, I see a question in the chat box. Maybe it's about biochar. So Fiona McCarthy has asked, are you considering biochar? Maybe this again relates to James. Could you, James, just shortly answer this question?
Well, we have a different process. Our process isn't involving biochar, but I think biochar can be one of the kind of key technologies in terms of application. Again, there's another commercial example, Arena Fuels, who have transitioned into producing biochar, and yeah, so I think it has to be considered as one of the technologies with potential. But again, it goes back to the question that was raised by the speaker earlier, that there is a need to kind of do analysis around this in terms of understanding the sustainability and economic possibilities from these. But I think more and more projects are, like, if you look at most of the funded projects, things like techno-economics, life cycle assessment are now much more embedded in research projects than they would have been a number of years ago, which gives a better chance of analyzing the innovations that are being developed. And there are a number of modeling projects as well, like Inform Bio, like a number of other projects which have been recently funded by the government, which are aiming to provide some level of decision making in terms of which innovations are actually supported, and the balancing between some of these bioeconomy innovations and some regenerative agriculture solutions and so on. I think even allowing for that analysis, which is going to be important and will inform, I think, will better inform the decisions that are made. I don't think we will ever be able to get to a situation where we can declare with absolute certainty that something is going to work. I don't think you can do that in an economy. I think some things will work and some things won't work. But I do think it's good that there are a number of projects that are happening around the place, which are providing some level of analysis of the research that's being done and trying to come up with some informed decision making on some of the innovations that could be brought forward.
Great, thank you very much, James. So I think that would wrap up our question and answer session. Carmen, if you wanted to add anything else.
No, it's been a great session. Great to have input from all around Europe. There are opportunities around biochar specific to forestry for Ireland, just because the availability of roundwood, particularly up to around 2035, it's going to be about 8 million cubic meters per annum. And it's a technology that has been de-risked around Europe. Just like to thank MTU for inviting us today, and I think it's been a really great webinar.
Thank you very much, Colm. So Carmen?
Thank you, everybody, for being here today, and thank you to the audience for the great discussions and the great questions. And thank you for the guest speakers for giving us their time and their insights and their time as well. So thank you so much, Hussein, for organizing everything and leading this panel. And thank you, Thomas, for also introducing us the Irish Farm Network, which I kindly remind everybody, if you are interested to join and influence which Biobased technologies could be brought to Ireland, please join. And thank you all. Thank you, everybody.
Yeah, thank you again, everybody, for joining us today at this event. And this is the end of our session. A recording of this session will be available and will be shared on social media channels. Thank you again and have a nice day.
Thank you.
Thank you.